Mu Sen was more confident now that the test for the shiny crystal mech had succeeded. It might now be Ren Yixuan's game in Space Wars, but war on land required the entire army to be united. The super warriors ruled in almost all of the wars of the great countries. They had to be paired with the super mecha, which were monopolized by each country and were difficult to purchase. Even if there was a possibility of purchasing one, there would still be a chance of a technical backdoor left on them. That was why no one thought Aslan would be defeated even though Arbiter had showcased their strength. They had reserves of super warriors, which could become a game changer. Of course, the game later on would become more dangerous. The strength of the guards in Saruman's snake was sufficient to control this kind of mech. They needed only to become more proficient in its operation. It was rather odd as well. They thought that the Sirius star was about to do something at first, but they seemed to have dismissed that thought. Was that in consideration of the volatility of the international situation? No matter what, it was a cause of relief to Tita. It was best for Tita not to go to war at its current state. I Xiaolu's Skylink broke this dream. I have obtained definite information that Sirius Star is ready for battle. Not only that, Manalasua will be chipping in as well, I Xiaolu said. This situation wasn't good for a huge family like the Aishi Financial Group. They were parties with vested interests originally. However, in troubled times like these, a wrong bet meant they might just lose everything. The Hail Cloud Alliance wasn't weak, but I Xiaolu felt that the Hail Cloud Alliance had yet to find its place in the current situation. Wang Zheng paused for a while at the side of his Skylink. I understand, thank you. This battle would be more difficult than the last one. This time, there would be no foreign aid, only more wolves. The Milky Way Alliance was collapsing, the members were grabbing land and resources. If the matter with the Heaven's Arrow Federation and the Thunder Alliance were a fig leaf, then the attack by the Sirius Star was inevitable. Wang Zheng, take care. Just in case, the Hail Cloud Alliance would always welcome you, I Xiaolu said. Wang Zheng smiled. Rest assured, Tita and I aren't so weak. Xiaolu, take care. Wang Zheng's expression became serious as he switched off his Skylink. He took a deep breath. The enemy would not return home alive. This situation wasn't something that could be concealed. Tita obtained this information in no time. The old and ill started to hide deep in the mountains. Most of the young titans weren't willing to hide, they wanted to battle. The 8 most important cities of Tita had entered red alert. Not many non-combatants entered the bunkers. The covenants of the Milky Way Alliance were now bullshit. It was most foolish to put their lives in the mercy of the enemies. Tita was abundant in resources. The most important thing for Tita was humans. Tita had now completely given up their spaceport. There was no need to sacrifice more on this. If the people from Sirius dared to come down, Tita would have the confidence to let them perish here. The main legion of the Saruman Snake Army had 10,000 people who were fitted with the best equipment. The Sirius Star's daring move came because of their trump card, the Sirius Star's Animal Legion. Numerous countries could occupy Tita's space, but there weren't many that could obtain an advantage against them on the ground. The bravery of the Tita giants was well known. To the outside world, these fearless half-wits could form a force even by waving a bat. They would probably have to slaughter the city to occupy Tita, and many countries did not have the courage nor the strength to do this. However, the Animal Legion's flexibility and combat effectiveness was superior to the forces of Tita. It was not a big problem not being able to use lasers. They needed only to load the rocket devices on the mecha. Neither the people from Sirius nor the Titans could use them. Close combat was advantageous to the Animal Legion. The terrain wasn't a threat to them either. In terms of quantity, a huge fleet was heading towards Tita. The Giro Federation and the Dion Commonwealth didn't put up any defenses. There was no need either. A strong country like the Sirius Star wasn't a country that small fries like them could interfere with. They only hoped that the Sirius Star wouldn't find trouble with them as well. In fact, the Sirius Star couldn't be bothered with them either. Small countries like these would know what to do if they applied just a little pressure. There was no need to waste time and resources occupying them. Interests determined the direction of the war. A large number of transport ships were being protected as the procession moved along. Neat rows of Animal Legion warriors were in them. The Sirius Star had the most advanced research in the mecha in the human world. Their strategies were first class in the Milky Way alliance as well. They didn't think much of a primitive country like Tita, but they didn't underestimate Tita, having sent a sizable fleet. Of course, they might not want to waste too much time here. The international situation was unstable after all. It was best to finish the battle as soon as possible. The Sirius Star Fleet entered the starfield of Tita under the pretext of defending the interest of the allies of the Giro Federation and the Dion Commonwealth. They were too lazy to even think of a better excuse now. It took them just a bit of time to take full control of the airspace of Tita. The Virgin Tita was right in front of them. Hades, the Sirius Star's commander-in-chief, stared quietly at Tita. This was the most critical step for the Sirius Star's empire. Any country who wanted to be dominant had to control at least one rare mineral deposit. They hadn't been able to achieve such a status because they were lacking in this aspect. Their chance was here. In addition to 5,000 fleets, they also had a huge number of transport ships with 200,000 elite warriors to flatten Tita. The Sirius Star's strategy was to take out the opposing force immediately. They had no interest in entering the deserted areas of Tita. Once they had Tita under control, they would immediately cordon the mining area off and turn Tita completely into a mining planet. Their stationed forces would be enough to deal with the native people. As for those who resisted, the smart ones might be given a chance to leave, but the rest would be completely wiped out. Wang Zheng's name was on Hades' list. He was the only super warrior on Tita. The greatest king might be very young, but his name was famous throughout the Milky Way alliance. Of course, there were some people who were not convinced. They only knew how to fight in competitions. However, Hades had asked the intelligence department to investigate. Honestly, after looking at Wang Zheng's records, Hades was taken aback. He was definitely a talent. Fortunately, he was still young and did not have much of a foundation. Getting rid of him now was the best time. Reporting for duty, enter. Hades flicked his cigar. Yang Fan walked in. General, Yang Fan is here to report. Yang Fan was also very excited because participating in this campaign would greatly help his future. Besides, he was a hardcore left activist of Sirius. The Battle of Tita was just the first battle to the rise of Sirius. Hades was checking out Yang Fan and nodded in satisfaction. Every country had invested greatly in nurturing their youths because they would determine the future. Yang Fan, is the mecha unit ready? Your team will be the vanguards and the first wave to land. General, this is my utmost pleasure. The morale of the warriors is very high. We're just waiting for the sound of the battle horn. Yang Fan was suppressing the excitement in his heart. That's right, everyone was raring to go. They wanted to pilot the mecha and gallop on the Tita Star, killing anyone that stood in their way. Your emotions are very good. There will be opportunities for you to showcase your skills. There is something I wanted to check with you. You know Wang Zheng very well, right? Yang Fan was somewhat taken aback. Yes, General. With regards to this person, he was at a loss for words. This was perhaps everyone's nightmare. Strong, with no weakness, even to the point of making people feel hopeless. What's your view of him? I hope it's your most honest assessment, said Hades. Right now, his expression was very serious. He wanted to confirm his opinion with Yang Fan. Yang Fan was silent for quite a while. Finally, with much difficulty, he uttered 4 words, not possible to defeat. I'm sorry, General. Among the younger generation, in terms of one-to-one combat abilities, he's the strongest. Yang Fan could not help but admit to this fact. The battles at Sig had already proven this. There was absolutely no chance of luck. Kiki. This fellow classmate of yours is on the Tita Star now and is the obstacle to our current plan. General, I'm willing to accept this mission, said Yang Fan. Hades smiled slightly. This is a war, not a battle. Your mission is to lead the vanguard and provide momentum for us. As for Wang Zheng, I've made other arrangements for someone else to take care of him. Just as he finished, 4 military men walked in. The stars of honor on their uniforms were very shiny too. This was the rank of Lieutenant General. However, their uniforms were not the conventional ones, but those of super warriors. This meant that these 4 were the top-level Earth-rank super warriors. For Sirius, this was a forbidden reserved force. Yang Fan has heard of these 4. To be exact, these 4 people were infamous in Sirius because they were well known for group attacks. A 4-person combination. Rumor had it that even heaven-rank masters were wary of them when they were together. Hades had already made full preparations. Yang Fan was only there to confirm his suspicions. Was there a need to make such a big fuss? It would be best to show his hand as late as he could. But now it seemed like getting rid of Wang Zheng once and for all was necessary. For such a super master, even Hades had to maintain sufficient respect. In this era, super warriors were an independent system too. They received their orders directly from the country. Sirius was being cautious by activating them this time. This was to ensure that nothing would go wrong. Yang Fan felt a hint of a strange taste in his mouth. In order to deal with Wang Zheng, Sirius had put in a lot of effort. Super warriors were like nuclear deterrents. The numbers and levels of the different countries were constant. They would not leave Sirius easily. Thinking back, Wang Zheng was merely an unknown junior back then and was struggling to stay at Elite Academy X. Now, he was the existence that he had to admire. Composing himself, Yang Fan knew that he should not think too much. He should focus on the war. Sometimes, it was not a good thing to be overly outstanding. At least Wang Zheng was facing a death situation now, unless he was clever and would not appear. However, from his understanding of Wang Zheng, he probably could not hold back. They were not quite acquaintances when they were at Elite Academy X. They could only be considered opponents. As soon as they left the academy, they each served their own masters. If they were to meet in the battlefield, Yang Fan would never show any mercy. Sirius already possessed a unique super alloy. If they could possess the super gravity energy ore, then Sirius would definitely soar. Heroes were born out of troubled times. Yang Fan and countless warriors of Sirius were waiting to establish themselves. A piece of good news was released. Princess Lin Weiyan was unharmed. To be exact, her double was the one who got abducted. Of course, the young princess had nonetheless suffered some fright and had been in the process of healing. Now that Aslan was in crisis, Lin Weiyan had also stepped up. The uncertainty surrounding Her Highness' survival had been inhibiting Aslan. Never underestimate Lin Weiyan's influence. Although Aina was now the queen, Lin Weiyan was second in line to the throne. In addition, she was the young princess that everyone wanted to take care of. It was unimaginable that she would be harmed. Although the press had blocked all news previously, there were still a lot of news. Now that everything was publicized, it had eased the worries of the people, completely crashing Arbiter's conspiracy. Only the Arbiters would think of abducting the two princesses. Aina's analysis was very clear. It was not important how the people outside Aslan viewed this war. The most important thing was the views of the Aslan people. Everyone in Aslan had to be united as one. Unity was strength. This was the key to winning this war. Lin Feng had returned after a humiliating defeat. They did not put him on the sidelines. Instead, he was demoted to a private. It was really a fall from grace, a rather pitiful one. The defeat in this war was understandable. The entire world was idolizing the new tactics by Ren Yixuan now. It was epic-making. Death was a certainty for those who were confronted with these new tactics now, regardless of who it was. Theoretically, Lin Feng had been unlucky and had become his stepping stone. However, the failure of Aslan came with a price. Hence, Lin Feng had fallen from a general to a normal soldier. Lin Feng needed to use his own life to regain the honor of the Lin family. He did not care for this. All he needed was an opportunity. Aina had given him this opportunity. A warrior who wanted to avenge himself had the strength. However, she was going to suppress him somewhat. He had to understand that there would not be a second chance for him, and neither would there be one for Aslan. Aina was really suited to be a queen. She was able to handle all matters that came her way meticulously and decisively, regardless of what they were. These were qualities that were required as a ruler. Kashawan was right that Aina was born to be a queen. Once she was in the position, Aina would be greater than she was. Although Kashawan was dead, from another aspect, she had succeeded because Aina had finally left Wang Zheng and chosen to take the throne, to sacrifice her life to protect the Aslan Empire. When Aina said she had no husband, no children, only Aslan, she had completely captured the hearts of every citizen of Aslan. This was Aina's determination. In the Aslan Empire, which possessed the highest qualities in the Milky Way alliance, it was very clear what this meant. Thus, even though the current situation was not favorable, the Aslan Empire was very stable internally. When Lin Huiyan also stepped up, the cohesiveness and morale of the people were even stronger. Huiyan said that she could understand how the queen wanted to protect her younger sister, but as a citizen of Aslan, she had to do her part at a time like this. Aina and Lin Huiyan both knew the real truth. The first thing Aina did when she became the queen was get Angela to bring Huiyan back. As for Constantine, her grandfather, she did not ask because she knew Constantine knew what to do. Kinship had to take a backseat in her position. They lived for their country and for the legacy for the name of Aslan. It would be best for Huiyan to return to Aslan. Huiyan cried her heart out upon seeing Aina. The two sisters talked all night. After all, Aina was more mature and more resilient. They could not choose their birthrights, nor could they stop what had already happened. Aina could assess the situation more clearly. The Milky Way Alliance's system had developed to such a stage where war was inevitable. They were powerless to stop it now. She did not know what the future would hold, but one thing was certain. Aslan had to emerge as the victor. This was the only way to protect the Aslan Empire. Aina would not ask much of Huiyan. She alone would transform into a practical and cruel person. Perhaps she could not protect too many people, but Aina hoped that Huiyan would remain as Huiyan. As such, she would not allow Huiyan to do anything that was against her heart. However, Aslan needed encouragement and morale. This was something that Huiyan could do. As for Huiyan, she could not accept what their grandfather had done. Perhaps she could understand, but she was very conflicted. With regards to protecting the country, she had to play her part. Once they fought off Arbiter, Huiyan would no longer be bothered with the war. Every member of the royal family of Aslan was very intelligent. After several war mobilization events were completed, all the planets and federations of the Aslan Empire were ready for battle. The two princesses' power of incitement was much better than Kushawin's. Kushawin may have been more mature and firmer, but Aina and Huiyan were more sincere. As such, they could conquer the hearts of the people. They could arouse the pride and the protective emotions of the warriors of the Aslan Empire. Just like the oath they made when they first joined the army. To protect the pride of the Aslan Empire, to protect the queen. A large part of the civilian enterprises of the Aslan Empire were turned into military industries. Battleships and mecha were being produced continuously. The military logistics were operating at high speed. The long-standing excellent processes established by the Aslan Empire allowed them to resume combat readiness very quickly. Similarly, the morale was running higher in Arbiter. In fact, Kushawin had been correct about one thing. Even if Aslan had not made the first move, Arbiter would have made the move too. However, whoever struck first would win, but they did not succeed. Arbiter had made use of this as an opportunity to wage an all-out war. Conquering the Aslan Empire was just the first step. Arbiter had already gained their first ally, and that was Sirius. Of course, Sirius only provided Arbiter assistance on the routes and some logistics supplies. Sirius has its own plans. Sirius was now aware of Arbiter's grand ambition, but they knew too that Arbiter needed allies and was sure to attack Aslan with them. As long as they were standing together, they would create a new setup, echoing each other. Arbiter wanted to be the strongest nation. Sirius wanted the first echelon. There were no conflicts between the two. Arbiter would take the best cut and Sirius was fine with the scraps. The relationship with Sirius was a small matter. The Mayan Empire declaring war against the Aslan Empire was a strange thing. As the vanguard, the Mayan Empire had wanted to suck up to Aslan and gain benefits. However, they had lost everything. In fact, if anyone had chosen the wrong side in a war, they could only continue down the dark path. But the Mayans were not humans. After a period of silence, perhaps they felt that they could gain greater benefits if they stood on Arbiter's side. In addition, the Aslan Empire had not fulfilled their promise to them, and Kushawin was dead. In fact, they were not afraid that Arbiter would attack them, but rather felt that they would not gain anything from the situation. Hence, the Mayans suddenly became enlightened. They wanted a share of Aslan with Arbiter. It was either Arbiter or Aslan. They had very valid reasons. As a result of the Aslan Empire's deceit, the Mayan Empire had sacrificed countless soldiers. They wanted revenge, a righteous revenge. The Arbiter Republic had publicly supported this. At the same time, they welcomed more countries to join them. The Aslan Empire was undoubtedly a fat goose in the Milky Way alliance, waiting to be slaughtered. Similarly, in terms of military might, Arbiter was a lean stallion, plenty of energy but not much substance. Hence, the Mayans had figured things out. Furthermore, they also felt that the Atlanteans did not seem to have any intention to make a move. As for the other countries, they were still watching in safety while others fought. They would not be so self-deprecating like the Mayans. With the change of heart, they had already lost their moral standing even if they were to win eventually. From a long-term perspective, they were still losers. It was also very obvious that with Arbiter's character, they would not like them. Nonetheless, not everyone could be involved at such a level. The Mayans definitely had the military might to back out from their words. With the current international situation being unfavorable for the Aslan Empire, Atlantis had remained silent. The Solar System, Gemini, Hail Cloud Alliance, Lea Sphinx, and the other countries only issued statements requesting all parties involved in the war to remain calm and show restraint, and return to the negotiation table. However, they had, in fact, not been idle. After a large-scale mobilization of their troops and stockpiling, they were ready to strike any time. The Dark Empire and Fairy Star had declared a war as well. They had been sworn enemies. When the structure of the Milky Way alliance collapsed, there was no way to reconcile their conflicts. They were very straightforward. When the Aslan Empire launched an expedition against Arbiter, the situation between the two countries became very tense. Now, a major war had started without the need to mobilize anyone. Once the war started, everyone knew that the situation was out of control. Ryan and the rest knew too that the situation was irreparable by human efforts. They had to consider the future of Gemini. All the countries, like Roland Garros, were recalling their citizens living abroad. Of course, Roland Garros was a neutral city. No one would incur their wrath under normal circumstances. However, Roland Garros did not have any armaments. Rumor had it that hidden technologies and super battleships seemed to require the various heads of the other nations to activate. Now, it was obviously useless. Besides, many people were returning to their homeland. Far away on the Oracle Star, in this completely forgotten corner, Lear received news from Constantine. The Oracle Star was now his. When the time was right, he would arrange for Lear to emerge and serve the Aslan Empire. This was Constantine's condition for sparing Lear's life. Lear gladly accepted, swearing to serve the Aslan Empire. After switching off his Skylink, a heartfelt smile appeared from the corner of Lear's mouth. Life was so wonderful. When he thought that he was totally destroyed, he discovered a trace of opportunity. He was like a man on the brink of death in the desert, holding on tightly to the last chance of survival, and received a new lease of life. On his left was Luo Fei. Fatty Luo had hardly shown any changes. Among the people undergoing evolution, this was absolutely amazing too. One had to wonder if his genes were too stubborn. Even Professor Sharjah was lost for words. Evolution did not merely occur in terms of power, but also in appearances as well. Just like the animals, the stronger animals were generally more superior physically, but this fatty. But Sharjah understood the importance of this fatty to Lear very well. No one should try to cross the line. On Lear's right was Sharjah, who seemed to have been rejuvenated. These were the days that he had always dreamed of. Lear relied heavily on him. Unlike Constantine, Lear was a person who did not have a baseline and would resort to unscrupulous means in order to achieve his goal. Constantine would not. Deep down, he had a lot of shortcomings and held on to the stubborn Aslan spirit. A person like Sharjah had no need for this. Sharjah also wanted to use this evolution experiment on himself, but this was not possible. He could not endure it. He only wished that, in his lifetime, he could see his masterpiece change mankind. To let the world remember a scientist named Sharjah, that he was the greatest scientist of this era. Behind the three were the henchmen that Lear had successfully created during this period of time. The leader of this pack was Demon. This strange, evil woman was even more bewitching now. The remaining three were also discovered from the Holy City. There was no lack of people who were ambitious and courageous, especially since there had been two successful cases like Lear and Luo Fei. Faced with death or new life, they would definitely choose the latter. A gamble could upgrade them from nothing to something. Obviously, they had succeeded. At the most crucial moment, Lear had helped them cross the threshold of death. But, at the same time, these people could never defy Lear's will. This was defined by the highest gene. Lear had the highest deterrence control of the new mankind, just like the dominant male in a pride of lions. Mo Ling, Balara, Donglei, Feng Yingying. Lear was undoubtedly the son of Saint Now. Those who had opposed him were all dead, killed by these four holy disciples. After Demon and the rest survived and lived very well, many people were willing to take part in the experiment to become the new mankind. Of course, this was a good situation. Lear needed more henchmen. In fact, it was discovered that those who did not fulfill Sharjah's requirements could not make it to the end. Lear had no intention of killing everyone. On the contrary, Lear never felt that he was a monster. He was the new mankind, a higher being. It was only right for the old mankind to submit to him, and he needed more henchmen for that. These people were rather good warriors. Although they could not become the best soldiers, they were still pretty useful in carrying out assassinations and other special missions. Helping Lear manage the categorization was Jay York. He had not taken part in the experiment. Although he craved strength, his life was more precious. The reason why Lear kept Jay York and gave him important responsibilities was precisely because of his shamelessness. He had seen those who had no baseline, but he had never seen someone as extreme as Jay York. Besides, this person was indeed quite capable and intelligent. He would definitely prove himself useful in the future. Luo Fei, Demon, and rest all had their character flaws. For example, if Luo Fei was tasked to assassinate someone he knew, he would probably not be able to do it. Even if he was forced to do it, it would not be the effect that Lear wanted. However, Jay York would do this happily to prove his existence. "Big boss, why don't we go to Aslan now? Aslan needs us now," said Luo Fei. Everyone was having fun, but he was not interested in the Oracle Star. "Kiki, brother Luo, Aslan is far from desperate yet. We'll gain the most when we provide help when they need it most. Our Lord probably has his plan all figured out already," said a grinning Jay York. "There are many opportunities during troubled times. There's no need to mix around with Aslan," said Demon calmly. Jay York smiled. The others were stronger than him, but in terms of intelligence, he was on top. No one else could see the big picture. It was true, these were troubled times. What did you want to do? Attack a small, destitute planet and rule like a king behind closed doors? How naive. Besides, Constantine was not someone to be trifled with. With his current strength, Lear would not carelessly ruffle the feathers of a heaven-rank master. Lear flicked his hand. A smile appeared from the corner of his mouth. Aslan is not at her desperate end yet. I understand Aina's character. Now is not the time. Jay York, the intelligence has to be up to date. Luo Fei, continue to practice. Don't relax. I need you all to display the power of deterrence at the most crucial time. Lear had a very good picture of the international situation. Two such great empires like Aslan and Arbiter would not be in dire straits over a single outcome. The core issue was Aina. If it was just Constantine's orders, Aina would probably not accept them. The queen's inner strength was probably at the level of her grandfather's. Pride and arrogance were at the highest level. However, this woman had a weakness. In the past, Aina had her baseline threshold, but now, her country was her major concern. Her personal likes were no longer important. This was where the opportunities would lie. But first, she needed to fend off the first wave of attacks from Arbiter. Ren Yixuan's game was rather interesting. It was very similar to his control system. The problem now was that he did not have enough manpower. Otherwise, his game would definitely be stronger than that of Constantine's. Sharjah was thinking of a solution for this problem as well. Lear was not asking for longevity for his henchmen. Even if their life expectancies were greatly reduced, it was enough for him. There were about 1,000 people remaining inside the holy city. There was no argument about the dominion here now. Not only was Lear controlling the people, he was also breeding Zerg. Although not as strong as Abyssal Zerg, these enhanced Zerg's fighting power was pretty good. These were all his spies, spread throughout the holy city. These people were all his resources. There were so many highly skilled masters. It would be a real waste if he did not make good use of them. Lear was very lenient with the people at the bottom and helped them upgrade their powers. As long as they accepted this reality, the only king here was King Lear. Lear did not forget about Wang Zheng and the others. Wang Zheng's Tita star, his oracle star. It seemed like they have gone full circle to the same starting point again. Except he had overcome his difficult times. It was Wang Zheng's turn now. Could Wang Zheng stop the huge army from Sirius? With the uncivilized Tita star and a bunch of primitive giants, could they hold up against a strong empire? Lear was really looking forward to this. This was the difference in birthrights. Lear would definitely not make the choice that Wang Zheng had made. If he were Wang Zheng, he would definitely be with Aina, inheriting Aslan. Even though there were many factions internally within Aslan, with time, this could be resolved. Unfortunately, Wang Zheng did not have this awareness. However, it was precisely because of this that he would have an opportunity. As for Achilles and the rest, once the three musketeers of the solar system, they were all on different paths now. Although it seemed like Achilles and Lai Xin were guarding the solar systems, they were confined by the solar system. Without destruction, there could be no construction. The shadows of war had completely overcast the Titan star. Wang Zheng and the rest had underestimated the despicableness of Sirius. After taking control of the air, Sirius launched targeted bombing on the Tita star's main military facilities for 3 continuous days. Laser weapons were indeed not very useful, but there were many more weapons that could cause damage. Furthermore, Sirius had coveted the Tita star for a long time. They had brought along numerous highly explosive bombs in the airstrikes. After 3 days of bombing, most of the exposed Tita star military facilities were nearly destroyed. The shortcomings of the air defense forces were clearly exposed. Fortunately, the Titans were prepared. The people of the Tita tribes had gone into hiding deep in the mountains, while the people in the cities were already in the bomb shelters. Fire and explosions sounded non-stop, but this was not a fireworks display. In the underground control stations, the expressions of Mu Sen and the rest were very grim. Mu Sen was especially grim due to the pressure. They had never underestimated the fighting power of the humans. Faced with the lack of space power, they had set up many underground facilities. Now, they had come in useful. It had been proven that his worries were not unfounded. However, these preparations were not enough. The Titan tribes had also sustained airstrikes and some giants who had not hidden well were injured in the bombings. Although the 8 major legions had spread themselves out and hidden deep into the forests, due to the sheer size of some of the mecha, they became important targets of the bombing. Fortunately, the forests provided assistance for the mecha to retaliate, rendering the low airstrikes of the enemies unsuccessful. However, compared to the enemies, the damage to the Tita star's 8 major legions were heavier. It was little wonder that Mu Sen and Lan Ling were worried. They were indeed a regular army, unlike the motley crews in the past. Staring at the Tita star that had been covered in fires, a smile appeared at the corner of Hades' mouth. Puffing a smoke circle, these natives were even more foolish than he thought. Even though they lacked space power, who would have thought that their ground-to-air power was so weak as well? Did they really think that energy resistance characteristics were their talisman? How very naive. The bombings were considered a success. Basically, they had destroyed the main factories that their intelligence had gathered. Of course, the mines had to be protected. The president's order was to resume the production as soon as possible, in preparations for the larger-scale wars in the future. As soon as Sirius took over the ruling power, no restrictions would be imposed on the exports. On the contrary, this would definitely be the best time to make profits from the war. General, we have completed our 120 bombings. We have hit all the targets that were set, an officer reported. This was modern warfare. As a commander, Hades only needed to watch from space. It was an absolute military advantage. Very good. Execute Plan 2, said Hades. He inhaled the cigar and, with satisfaction, puffed out a smoke circle. What was a military powerhouse? The continuous bombings had disrupted the air defense powers of the Tita star. However, this was not the time to engage in ground attacks yet. They still needed to shatter the fighting spirit of the Titans. These barbarians still had some spirit in them. Hades was, after all, a renowned general of Sirius. He would definitely want to use the shortest time possible and achieve victory with the least amount of losses. Although the scale of this war was not very huge, for Sirius, it was the crux to their bigger plan. Mobilize the super warriors. Other than Masdar, Rakovic, Babao, and Naples, the top 4 warriors, Hades also brought along a small team of super warriors. This was a strong team made up of Earth rank or near Earth rank warriors. Their mission was simple: to instill total despair in their targets. The alarm of the airstrike rang. One after another, the mecha ascended from the sky above the city with lights. That was right, the mission this time was to attack a city. Tita Star was now in a state of lockdown. Those civil rights organizations were merely passing tides. No one was bothered anymore. Hades was not about to annihilate the city, but he would definitely teach those who resisted a lesson. It was simple: wherever Sirius appeared, every Titan would have to hide away like an ostrich or a turtle. It was impossible for them to hide. It would be out of character for the Titans. The bunker facilities were not concerned about accommodating the entire city. More people needed to remain in the rooms in their homes and not wander in the streets. 2 blue Syrian super warriors landed on the clock tower in Lankow City. The 2 pilots laughed heartily. They had just destroyed a building and looked at the people running out like rabbits. In their view, they saw a team of mecha heading towards them. There was also a team of giant mecha on the other side. 1, 2, 3, stones, haha, the indigenous people are mine and those mecha are yours. Let's see who's faster. Of course, it's me. Whistling, the 2 super warriors descended. Normal bullets and missiles were useless against the mecha. But Sirius had a unique super alloy, and these super alloy armor-piercing shells were very effective against the mecha. Of course, these 2 super warriors had no such intentions. It was rare that they would have the chance to feel the adrenaline of tearing people apart with their bare hands. These were serious professional soldiers, super warriors, not amateurs. Such differences were very obvious. The bloodshed and the continuous explosions were accompanied by the ear-piercing laughter of the 2 super warriors. The same scenario was playing out at the 8 main cities of the Tita Star. Not only that, the main tribes of the Tita Star were also in their range of attacks. Some people of these tribes were unwilling to retreat. Be it stubbornness or steadfast, the Titans were unwilling to leave their hometowns. Just as they knew that city lives would be better, they were unwilling to leave their homes. Besides, the Titans were not in the habit of running away when they were being attacked. The situation was more serious than what Mu Sen and the rest believed. The fighting power of the giants, the primitive weapons, even if they were equipped with some advanced weapons, it would still be totally worthless when confronted with these super warriors. The purpose of the super warriors was to attack, harass, and rampage to completely destroy the resistance of the Titans. Only by letting these ingenious people know who God was would they be the submissive slaves. After all, they would need these people who only knew brute force to work the mines in the future. This was the entire plan of Sirius. Sure enough, the Titans reacted very fiercely when confronted with the attacks. Mu Sen had made it very clear that they should hide deep in the mountains and not engage in the fight. However, such an order was of little use at such times. One after another, the fearless giants charged towards the super warriors. Their weapons were totally useless against the super warriors. Even though they could not use energy shields, the super alloy of Sirius was very famous in the Milky Way Alliance too. However, the enemy's attacks could easily cut through their bodies. After the massacre, the super warriors emptied all the missiles that they had brought with them. They then leisurely flew back to the battleship. At the command center on the Tita Star, blood and flames were the only sights that Mu Sen, Lan Ling, and the rest saw. Although prepared, in the face of war, they had waned. How long would the Tita Star need to recover from these few short days of attacks? Lan Ling could no longer watch the catastrophic sights on the screens, but she forced herself to continue watching because she wanted to imprint the images in her memory. Luck did not exist in war. Wang Zheng and Rara Durai were leading the Saruman snake army into the dense forest at the moment. They were going to lie in wait, waiting for the enemy's land troops. They didn't expect the enemy to be so cunning. A bombing followed by an attack by the super warriors. Their land troops remained undetectable. Hades' second phase of attack wasn't just to destroy the will of the Titans, he also wanted to lure Wang Zheng and the potential super warriors of Titan out. Didn't a heaven rank appear all those years back? These Titans weren't short on money. They might even be able to hire a few with money to get rid of Wang Zheng and the others. The army of Titan would then collapse. Intel told him that the army was very backwards and relied on a person's personal charm to govern the army. How could they still be doing something so primitive in this time and age? This was the easiest target. A good hunter needed great patience. Hades wouldn't let a single moment ruin his chances. He knew that Wang Zheng would definitely not be able to wait it out. If he could, his influence on Tita would crumble. His Super Warriors attacks rolled out a broadcast of public announcement. Wang Zheng, you Bast Road, come out for a fight. This was broadcasted in the native Tita language and the common language of the Milky Way Alliance. Hades didn't believe that it wouldn't destroy the fighting spirit of the Tita people. What bravery, Star! This was an absolute native thought. The attack was over for the first day. The result was, Wang Zheng chickened out. The Titans didn't show up as either, only normal civilians who were incapacitated with minimal effort. A few fearless giants, however, did kill their way in. All biological creatures knew fear, even insects, what more the Titans. The command of the war was handed over completely to Wang Zheng. Mu Sen and the rest supported through logistics. The wise ones knew how to adapt, but the giants, it was the Titans' greatest advantage and their greatest weakness. Fearlessness sometimes meant sacrifices in vain. Mu Sen didn't expect the people from Sirius to use such a despicable and shameless trick. Wang Zheng, please do not be fooled. The people of Sirius must have made full preparations to infuriate Wang Zheng. They had created this plan of waiting before they even started the battle. Regardless of their method of attack, they had to bear with it. Sacrifices were unavoidable. It would only be a tragedy if they couldn't bear with the losses. Tita only had one chance, and that was to destroy the land forces of the Sirius star. Therefore, they might be infuriated, but the damage wouldn't be fatal. The Sirius star's ground forces would need to control the cities and mining areas. It was paramount for them to wait until the ground troops landed before they could confront them. And Wang Zheng was the top priority. He had a bearing on the morale of the army. Mu Sen absolutely believed that the Saruman Snake Army led by Wang Zheng would possess the strongest combat power. It was also the only hope for this war. Please, please bear with it, Mu Sen prayed hard. The other 7 large legions became main targets because the giants' suits of armor were too visible. Their losses were relatively large and they were forced to disperse. The Saruman Snake Army, however, hid well with their new crystal mecha. Yi Zissou had this concept previously. Old Merchant and Old Butch had solved the problems. The rest was just assembly. The giants using the crystal mecha were trained in physical techniques since they required giants with sufficient agility to use them. Hiding in the dense forest was a piece of cake for the giants since they were hunters themselves. Wang Zheng could receive the most comprehensive information since he was in the headquarters. The enemy's purpose was very clear, that was to make him appear. The enemy wouldn't continue with their tactics as long as he didn't move according to their wishes. However, it maddened him to see the Titan warriors shouting his name and rushing out to meet the enemies only to die under the swords of the enemy's super warriors. His hair stood on end. Rara Darai and Shan Meng only managed to stop Wang Zheng from rushing out by desperately hanging on to his leg. That was the order given to them by Mu Sen, to stop Wang Zheng at all costs. The enemy would be at their wits' end as long as they could bear with these few critical days. No one doubted Wang Zheng's strength, but no one thought that a big country like the Sirius Star would have no way around him. There were always more solutions than problems. The same intel was gathered in space. Their attacks were much better than expected. Hades wanted to see how long a young chap who was just crowned the greatest king could withstand. He would view him in a different light if Wang Zheng could really withstand the effects. Yang Fan and Wolf were old teammates in the forces. All the soldiers were in their best conditions. However, there would really be nothing left for them to do if this were to continue. The Titans would be totally destroyed before they could do anything. It didn't feel very good for super warriors like them. How many days can Wang Zheng endure under such threat? Wolf started. Yang Fan sighed. War isn't a competition. Strategies aren't without blind spots. Wang Zheng would hide if he was smart. It wouldn't be very possible to catch him if he were to leave, but there would really be no hope if he were to appear. He might not have many feelings for Wang Zheng, but he didn't have any animosity toward him. This was war. Everything functioned on self-interest and had nothing to do with personal preferences. It would be a pity if Wang Zheng were to perish just like that. He was a miracle of this era after all. Frankly speaking, Tita had no chance at all when faced with the Sirius star without any foreign aid. They were completely unequal in strength. Wang Zheng would save his own life if he were smart. The attack came once again on the next day with bombings and super warriors. The warriors of Sirius were even more cruel this time. They dropped the fire bombs directly into the cities, turning them into seas of fire. Many brave titans and humans rushed to the streets to extinguish the fires. Each city had super warriors more than 10 meters tall. This was the foundation of a strong country, which was not something a backward country could compare with easily. There were at least 2 mature Earth-ranked captains leading each team, flattening everything in their way. Mu Sen and the rest could only watch silently in the Lankou City underground base. The city's defenses were shaken yesterday. The defense's forces completely disintegrated. The key here was that the combat power wasn't comparable in the least. Loya's Sirius super warrior was specially equipped with a fire breather, which was quite fun. Yes, for the slaughter of a city that had no value, a little toy could make the enemy more fearful. They had to let these native fools know what represented the world. The members of the squadron scattered to those who fight fires and kill. Buildings were destroyed by the super warriors. Cynical laughter was broadcasted. Wang Zheng, you bast road, coward, do you dare to come out and fight? The greatest king, that pipped Loya's interest. Anyone who wasn't heaven rank and above had to die even if Wang Zheng was just an earth rank. The key was their mech. What kind of mech could this rubbish place have compared to the mecha they had? The alloy blade could cut through the armor of a giant far too easily. The blade was lodged in the body of a giant. He was just about to pull the blade out when he found a giant's hand holding it in death grip. Ada, not a coward. Loya stared at the bloody giant with one breath left in his body. Was this barbarian a fool, just for this sentence? He pulled the blade out and severed the giant's hand. Another giant came crashing into the mech. Loya was delighted. This was something. It was only fun if there was resistance. The mech ignited and burst forth. Bang! The giant flew away, his organs probably punctured. He seemed to be shouting something. More giants appeared on the streets. Some of the short wise ones appeared as well. The super warriors were shocked. Were they Fu King crazy? They wanted to give the titans a taste of fear through outright slaughter. The effect was great yesterday. What had happened to these guys today? The giants rushed up one by one, mumbling something under their breath. Only, the giants were either pierced through or sent flying by the mecha. A giant who was cut at the waist was still hugging the feet of the super mech, still reciting something under his breath. The warriors had finally understood what they were saying. Ada wasn't a coward. The super warriors were dumbfounded. More titans were constantly pouring into the streets, most of them old, fragile, and sick. They had never been met with such a situation. Hades could see and hear it all very clearly in space. Only Hades had seen so much death that he had no compassion left in him. He would kill until Wang Zheng appeared. No one could stop him, not even Wang Zheng. Orders were given. The super warriors had to be robots when they battled. They had to kill even if their hands were tired. The order was simple: kill all who resisted. Loya loved killing. He would battle in the underground arenas when there was no war. He loved the feeling of the knife rubbing his bones. Kill. Blood filled the screen and Wang Zheng stood up. Rara Darai and the rest of the giants' hearts were filled with hatred and anger, but they remained calm nonetheless. The titans weren't afraid of death. To them, these people were glorious since they were willing to exchange their lives to defend Ada's honor. That was what every titan should do. They would have also been willing to do it if they didn't have a mission on hand. Ada, please don't be sad. This is the personification of courage to all who were sacrificed. They will return to the arms of the Titan God, Shan Meng said. Wang Zheng raised his head and looked on silently at Rara Darai and Shan Meng. Rara Darai and all the leaders of Saruman Snake, heed my order. Everyone got down on one knee and gazed at Wang Zheng. Wang Zheng had calmed down considerably. No matter the results, Sirius will unleash their main attack today. Rara Darai, Shan Meng, remember, you are leaders. You have to maintain high alert on the team's battle formation and showcase all that you've done in training. You have to obtain victory in an instant, Wang Jung said. I believe in you. Ada, let me go. Rara Darai said. Wang Jung smiled forcefully, so much so that his face was a little pale. Some people are alive but are walking dead, some have died but will live forever. It's their glory to die for me, it is also my glory to die for them. Rara Darai and the rest wanted to follow but were stopped resolutely by Wang Jung. This was an order. Wang Jung jumped into the crystal mech. Serious, I'll fight with you since you want me to. The crystal mech snuck out at a high speed. He didn't want to expose the Saruman Snake Battle team's position because he acted on impulse. After half an hour, the crystal mech soared violently into the sky and the signal came on in space immediately. Wang Jung flew with all his might to Lankou City, the biggest city in Tita. Commander, sir, we found the target fast approaching Lankou City. He's expected to arrive in 10 minutes. Hades immediately locked onto the crystal mech on his screen with a gleeful smile on his face. This is an order. Move all the super warriors to Lankou City. Destroy the target at all costs. Yes. The super warriors destroying the various cities took off quickly after receiving the orders, not forgetting to carry all bombs and ammunition along with them. More than a dozen super warriors were encircling Lankou City. 4 super cool super warriors descended from the space shuttle in the atmosphere above. Even a heaven rank warrior should run as far away as possible from such a formation. Wang Jung had pushed the speed of the crystal mech to its maximum. The massacre in Lankou City had yet to stop. Loya wasn't in a hurry. He was warming up with these giant buffoons. He really didn't believe that they wouldn't be afraid. Another guard's mech was cut in half. He couldn't shy away from it as there was a woman carrying a child running away from her house on fire. Unfortunately, she ran the wrong way. The child wailed, exciting Loya. This woman would probably be terrified at this scene, Instead, this female wise one, a weak woman with zero combat power, comforted her child gently. Don't be afraid, Ada will save us. We'll return to the arms of the Tita god even if we die. The child seemed to understand. He sucked his thumb and stopped crying. His eyes stared right ahead at the super warrior in front of him. That enraged Loya. These damned weaklings didn't know their place. How dare they glare at him? The big blade slashed down and the Tita woman hugged her child tight, knowing that she couldn't avoid it. She looked up fearlessly at the offender striking her down. Not only the Titan men were brave. Grunt, that was the sound of the alloy blade grazing against bone. A giant blocked this attack without hesitation. His armor couldn't withstand the alloy blade and was split open. The blade lodged in his shoulder blade, but the giant showed no fear. Loya's teeth gritted. He hated these kinds of eyes. Those damned eyes, He sawed through the giant's shoulder, which flew off in an instant. The blade's shimmer shone through. An Earth-rank warrior wasn't someone a giant could go up against. The giant was shredded into large chunks of meat in front of the woman and her child. He smiled at the child when he fell. Ada will save us. Would he? Would he? Would he? Even the Jade Emperor wouldn't be able to save you? Loya howled in fury. The blade came down once again. The Titan mother threw her child away from the blade at the critical moment with a smile still on her face. She hoped that her child would know not to be afraid even in their last moments. Bang! Loya's laughter was even more crazy now as he swung his blade around these lowlifes. The blade now came mercilessly towards the Titan child. Want to run? It would take just moments to kill you pieces of trash. Bang! Loya stepped back. A mech appeared, the target was here. A trickle of blood came down the corner of Wang Jung's mouth. He was still too late even though he had come at the fastest speed possible. This blade landed on his mech. Wang Jung didn't even have the time to defend. He put the child down gently. Wang Jung's murderous intent poured out uncontrollably from his body. He had to kill them even if the devil were to possess him. So you are Wang, grunt, bang. The crystal mech disappeared and reappeared in front of Loya. He wasn't afraid. He was also an Earth-rank warrior. Wang Jung was at most a level higher. Loya regretted it. Bang! The crystal mech broke his alloy blade into two with a single punch and punctured through to his pilot seat. Loya was grabbed out of his mech. Wang Zheng gave Loya a death glare. I'll make sure you lot pay us back 1,000-fold. Ping! Loya exploded. The crystal mech then flew upwards into the sky. The other super warriors started surrounding Wang Zheng. Wang Zheng pulled out 2 crystal swords. Instant kill. The most effective way of battle on the battlefield was one-hit kill. Wang Zheng pushed himself to the extreme and killed his enemies effectively before they formed a siege. This expended a lot of energy but was the most practical combat method. That was Wang Zheng's exact plan. The titans on the streets faced the sky. They believed Ada would come. Their fates were entwined. They saw no fire, nor the threats of the mech, and stared right into the face of death. Wang Zheng knew he had no way of retreat. These people would be dead if he did, so these enemies should go to hell instead. Masdar and the other 3 were near the battlefield but had yet to engage him. They knew Wang Zheng's strength and, honestly, no one could be Wang Zheng's opponent if they were to fight one-on-one. Wang Zheng might be young, but he was known as the top Earth rank warrior. The 4 of them together might not beat him either. However, there were more than 50 super warriors here, and 8 of them were Earth rank warriors. Wang Zheng's strategy was effective but tiring. He was playing with his life. They weren't in a hurry anyway. The smart thing to do was lie in wait. The super warriors received orders to kill Wang Zheng. 9 mecha were destroyed in an instant. The serious warriors were best in group attacks. Their eyes were now red with anger. They would lose out to no one in terms of courage and madness. The remaining super warriors pulled out their alloy blades and rushed towards Wang Zheng without any fear. There were no fancy ability X ranges of attacks. All of the attacks were concentrated. Wang Zheng's shiny crystal mech was hit several times as well. It was deadly to both sides without the protection of energy shields. Wang Zheng's inner and outer universes were completely connected. He clearly knew whether he could kill the enemy or not with his sword. He also knew he would be hit, but that didn't matter. Only one thing was on his mind now: kill. The energy shifted. The other super warriors had unleashed all of their energy. Every trick was a bid to prevent Wang Zheng from attacking. Nonetheless, it was all futile. The attacks were too weak for someone like Wang Zheng, who had comprehended the inner universe and the 5 affinities. He could block them with all his might. Comparing cruelty, the serious people were cruel to themselves and their comrades. Every one of them was cruel as they had people they held dear. Hades was dumbstruck as he looked at the monitor. What? How was this possible? Wang Zheng was just an Earth rank warrior. How could he be the same as an Heaven rank warrior? He wasn't afraid of death either. And what was this damn mech? They had never heard of such a super mech on Tita. They had brought 1/3 of their super warriors just in case, but there were only 13 of them left in the blink of an eye. The super warriors were trying to drag the battle with Wang Zheng out, but that was their wishful thinking. Wang Zheng was merciless. It was either him or them. To a greatest king like Wang Zheng, it wasn't enough to just defend. Wang Zheng's anger was fully unleashed, his murderous intent as cold as the devil's. The scene of the Titan mother's last moments replayed in his mind. She wanted to live to see her child become a super warrior, but he had been one step too late. He should have come out earlier. He might not be a good leader, but he was Wang Zheng. Kill! A crazy roar and the sound wave amplified and exploded in the air. The other super warriors felt their heads buzz instantly. It was a supersonic spirit burst. Shing, shing, shing. The crystal warrior became a beam of light, spraying in all directions. Boom, boom, boom. A series of booms happened. Serious super warriors dropped down like flies all of a sudden. Only one was left standing in no time. The pilot's eyes were red, but the fury was gone and was replaced with fear. The crystal mech zoomed behind in and penetrated this last standing warrior with his sword. Only then did his guilt lighten a little. Finally, the super warrior was also destroyed. At this moment, Lankou City cheered. The streets were filled with titans in no time. This was their faith. There was no fear, no sorrow when disaster came. There was no fear, no retreat in challenges. They would get salvation even in death. He would dispel everything and their God would confer eternal glory to them. Wang Zheng knew that his real enemy had arrived amongst the cheers. Every one of them was of similar strength to him, and there were 4 of them. Rara Darai and the rest rolled their fists and suppressed their joy when they saw Wang Zheng defeating the enemy. They would give anything to fight alongside Wang Zheng so that their invaders couldn't return alive. The cheers stopped abruptly. 4 other super warriors appeared in the sky. Even ordinary people could feel the difference of these 4 super warriors. Their auras felt very similar to that of Wang Zheng. They cut off Wang Zheng's route. Masdar was truly surprised. He had never seen such a strong Earth rank warrior. Nonetheless, Masdar knew that Wang Zheng was weakened considerably from all the blows he had received. Wang Zheng took a deep breath. He believed no one was his rival if it was a one-on-one battle, but 4-on-1? That was troublesome. However, it wasn't the end. He had killed the ones previously to prevent them from their non-discriminatory murder of normal civilians. These 4 had to be here specifically for him. He needed only to bring the battle out of Lankou City and break free from their formation. Wang Zheng's mind was clear after the crazy battle. Both Ares College and Elite Academy X had taught their students the importance of remaining calm. The crystal mech flew up and away from the city before they launched their attacks. Masdar chased after. They weren't about to lose him. They weren't interested in the lives of mere civilians at their realms. Their only purpose was to get rid of Wang Zheng. They maintained their formation. They chased after Wang Zheng. The titans in the city could only pray for victory. The wise ones recited their Bible. There was no fear, no sorrow when disaster came. There was no fear, no retreat in challenges. They would get salvation even in death. He would dispel everything and God would confer eternal glory to them. It could be translated as such in the common language. Every titan was devoted. Nothing could shake their faith. The core disciples of the Saint Church would be surprised if they were here. The prayers of the titans were the same as theirs. Wang Zheng couldn't break free from the 4 pursuers. They seemed to have read his mind. It was impossible to break them up and fight them one by one. Wang Zheng decided to take them on. Masdar and the rest surrounded him once again in midair. I admire your strength and courage as a warrior, but this is war, not an academic battle. You can rest now, Masdar said. Wang Zheng was recharging his primordial regression technique. It's not good to be conceited. Doesn't the Sirius star possess even one heaven rank warrior? Masdar smiled. Wang Zheng, I recognize your strength, but don't be too arrogant as well. You may not be able to beat us 1-1-1, let alone 1-on-4. We will spare your life if you stop now. Wang Zheng was stalling for time to recover his energy and to search for a way out. Masdar was the strongest amongst them, so he shouldn't start with him. The one behind him in red was weaker. He should get rid of one with all his might. Any hesitation would spell his doom. Masdar looked up into the sky. Game over. Masdar was also stalling for time. Their best chance wasn't to kill Wang Zheng with the 4 of them, but to stall with Wang Zheng. Their spiritual powers suddenly peaked and the force surrounded them like a hurricane. Sirius 4 Directional Seal. The spiritual power of the 4 Earth rank warriors resonated, completely trapping Wang Zheng. They knew what Wang Zheng was gunning for and wouldn't give him an opportunity for it. They were going to make him perish. The explosive power of the 4 completely blocked the space. Wang Zheng's spiritual power was completely suppressed, unable to mobilize. Wang Zheng wouldn't be able to showcase his special ability even if he had one. This Sirius 4 Directional Seal would be difficult to break free from even for a heaven rank warrior. Zhang Shan's space movement would be utterly useless as well. Imprisonment was only a means. They sealed Wang Zheng's power with all their strength, but the one to battle Wang Zheng wasn't them. A gun nozzle appeared from a huge battleship up in the atmosphere of the Theta star. Lasers weren't easy to use, but who said anything about using lasers? Hadis' expression wasn't so good. Their losses were a bit too huge, but they were finally able to achieve their purpose. This was war. His judgment of not underestimating Wang Zheng turned out to be right. Marcus made it easier for the battleship to lock into Wang Zheng's position through the chat. Spiral electromagnetic gun. It was loaded with alloy warheads and would pierce the target at ultra-high speed. Even a heaven rank master would be smashed into pieces. There was no one who wouldn't die from this in the world. Wang Zheng also felt the crisis nearing. These 4 people were the best when combined to seal someone's powers. The seal wouldn't be able to last too long, but it was enough to seal Wang Zheng's time away. His spiritual power and inner universe could not be activated at all. These four had no intention to fight with technology, but purely with the simplest, most direct power. Wang Zheng's inner universe was completely blocked by this brute force. The electromagnetic gun locked onto Wang Zheng from space. A huge bang and a golden beam appeared towards Wang Zheng's shiny crystal mech like a meteorite. Nothing mattered in the face of this power. The only possibility was to dodge, but it was impossible for Wang Zheng to move now. Wang Zheng's irises turned golden with a roar. He unleashed all his power at the moment of life and death, but Mazdar and his team were not only powerful, but had extremely rich experience. They went all out knowing that this was a critical moment. The crystal mech struggled in its final moments. Mu Sen, Lan Ling, Old Merchant, and the rest turned pale. They expected the enemy to be prepared, but not to this extent. 4 top-level Earth-rank warriors were here only to trap Wang Zheng, and the final blow actually came from outer space. This was the passiveness they faced after losing control of their airspace. The enemy could do whatever they wanted. Rara Durai and the rest were anxious, but they had no immediate signal. They called the headquarters frantically, but they didn't respond. This wasn't the first time he encountered a life-and-death situation, but this was the closest to death he had ever been. It was impossible to dodge the attack unless he could teleport. He couldn't do what Zhang Shan could. It would be useless even if he could, since the 4 opponents had sealed the space completely. He was now powerless to control his fate. Lan Ling and Yi Zisu nearly broke down when they saw this scene. They were girls after all. The others couldn't speak either. Time seemed to have stopped. The beam was coming towards them. This was the last phase. Mazdar and the rest had met with many such situations, so they knew how strong the super warriors were with their last struggle. However, Wang Zheng had no chance. The meteorite blast hit the shiny crystal mech squarely, sending a sound wave horizontally. The 4 super warriors flew off on the impact. Everything turned white. After a while, Mu Sen and the rest had their visions restored. A gaping, black hole showed up on the screen. Nothing was left. The super warriors had disappeared as well. Hades sucked his cigar in space. This was something good from Earth. It felt good to see the crystal mech being destroyed. Hades knew victory was near. Get all the land troops ready. All-out attack in 5 hours. I want to be in the governor's house by tomorrow night, Hades bellowed. The strength of a person was really small in the face of a country. Tita was now just an empty shell after losing their pillar of support and faith. It would crumble with time. Wang Zheng had given him quite a bit of trouble, but he finally got rid of him. Yang Fan and Wolf couldn't say much. Wang Zheng was the miracle of the era in Elite Academy X. He had managed to get through all obstacles there, but was killed the very first time he appeared in a real battle. The weakness of a person was fully exposed when a country wanted to deal with them. Yang Fan and the rest settled their feelings quickly. Warriors weren't required to have feelings. This process would pass real fast anyway, and killing indiscriminately would make anyone forget. They only hoped that the Titans knew what was best for themselves and surrendered quickly. The main countries of the Milky Way Alliance had either dispatched their troops or were already in battle. However, none of this seemed to be happening in Atlantis. Unlike Tita in the pits of a fiery hell, Atlantis was still beautiful. That was why it was important for a nation to be strong. Princess Xinyu smiled happily in the bright and magnificent hall. It was the first time her birthday party was so lively. Previously, the Milky Way Alliance only knew the 2 princesses from Aslan. Everyone else were sidekicks. Today, however, Princess Xinyu was everyone's target. She had reached a suitable age for marriage and would search for a suitable partner amongst the human countries according to past practices. Whoever married the princess would be able to obtain a powerful ally. No one would dare to provoke Atlantis. None of the countries were going to let this chance slip by. They could discuss cooperation even if they weren't successful for the marriage. Atlantis would probably be open at such a time as well. They probably wouldn't be inflexible and stubborn, to be fixated only on Aslan. Your Highness, happy birthday. A middle-aged woman came into Princess Xinyu's view. She had an exquisite look and slightly raised eyebrows, typical of the Federal Republic of Manalasuo. It was time to present their gifts. Many were also waiting for an opportunity behind her. Princess Shinyu personally received Lady Manalasuo's gift and thanked her. Madame Buluo, thank you for coming, I'm honored by your presence. The lady was surprised and happy to hear the princess address her by her name and wanted to have a chat with the princess. However, the proud lady from Mayan Empire tutted impatiently, the decorative crystals on her clothes colliding, hurrying her along. The lady said a few words of blessings and backed away, all smiles. Prince Howlin smiled as he watched his sister deal with these ladies. He didn't need to entertain them this year. In previous years, he had entertained them for all sorts of diplomatic acts. That feeling wasn't good at all. The little prince possessed wisdom and calmness that didn't match his age. Her Majesty the Queen is here. The ball reached its climax with the announcement. Princess Shinyu was no longer the main attraction of the ball. It had now transformed into an arena for political battles. Everyone put forth their best foot in front of the Queen. This was a real performance. You would win as long as you could discern the attitude and intentions of the other countries, including Atlantis. That was especially true with Aslan in this state. Everyone wouldn't need to put so much effort if Kashawan were still alive. Aslan was more reliable than Arbiter in many ways. They set the rules when they were strong and they were the ones who stuck by the rules they made themselves. The situation was different now. The Prime Minister had been assassinated and their fleet was defeated. The new Queen, Aina, had obtained the unanimous approval from Aslan through her outstanding performance. It was, however, difficult for the rest to acknowledge her abilities internationally due to her tender age. Could she turn the situation around? A starving camel was still bigger than a horse. No one dared to put Aslan down, but the international situation was changing. There were all sorts of chances. The attitude of the Atlanteans would determine the thoughts of many. They were one force that the future could not do without. However, to the Atlantis Empire, their peace wasn't a declaration of their neutrality. There were countless turbulent undercurrents hidden beneath the quiet lake. Secrecy was necessary before any plan was revealed. No one noticed Prince Howlin disappearing from the ball since the Queen and Princess Shinyu attracted all the attention. Howlin smiled at a middle-aged man in Aslan's army uniform. General Lin Yi, apologies that I'm the one entertaining you. I didn't come at a very appropriate time. Lin Yi smiled as he replied. It was obvious that he had chosen to come to Atlantis at this time on purpose. They could not be more careful now. It seemed like Atlantis wouldn't choose Aslan even if there was a political marriage this time. However, they could not allow the party to be against Aslan. Lin Yi came with this mission in mind. Lin Yi's voice dragged slightly. He noticed that Lin Yi had addressed him by his title in the Aslan army, not the affectionate uncle, as he had in the past. This was a signal. He considered for a moment before turning to pull their relationship closer. It's been a long time, Howlin. You've grown into a man. You were still hugging my legs, beckoning me for a story last time I saw you. Howlin gave a light smile. He understood what he was pulling and sighed inwardly without betraying any emotions on his face. I was still young then, General. Is Major General Lin Feng well? He's been demoted to an ordinary soldier. Her Majesty the Queen gave him a chance to reclaim his honor. Lin Yi had a face full of sunshine as well. He wasn't naive to think that their relationship as distant relatives would be of any use since it involved their countries. The prince had given him due respect to meet him alone. Atlantis would still stand together with Aslan in the battlefield but would not make it clear. Lin Yi sighed. He was hoping that Atlantis could openly support Aslan and to send their fleet. The train stopped and the door opened. A white strip of light appeared on both sides of the road. A group of heavily armed Atlantis warriors stood at attention when they saw Howlin. They then entered through a heavily guarded door. All sorts of sounds filled their ears in that instant. It was a huge war factory. There were countless machines operated by Atlantean technicians. They produced everything with high precision visible to the naked eye at an incredible speed. Every technician was a high priest in Atlantis. It was just one of countless factories of Atlantis. Lin Yi was in awe. It was a miracle of rune technology. The Atlanteans and the Aslan people had similar production levels, but the scale and yield could be said to be that of industrialization versus a laboratory. The parts were delivered to the final packaging stage, where the logo was finally brazed on. It wasn't that of the Atlanteans, but of the Aslan Empire. The core components of Aslan's battleships were produced here. This was the primary reason Lin Yi had come in such a secretive manner. This batch had to be delivered on time. Lin Yi didn't think Atlantis would deliberately break or delay the production, but it was better to be sure. Your Highness. A technician came over and greeted them. Hao Lin nodded. High Priest Tom, this is General Lin Yi. General Lin Yi, nice to meet you. We'll complete Aslan's order on time. Tom smiled slightly and gave Lin Yi a slight bow. The Atlanteans' etiquette was never lacking. Your Holiness Tom, nice to meet you. That would be very much appreciated. Lin Yi returned their etiquette with more etiquette. He proceeded to ask some general questions about the production. Tom answered them without revealing any secrets. Lin Yi still managed to find some clues. It seems like there should be some room for improvement on the production rate, right? Your Excellency General, I can only guarantee that we will finish the production within the stipulated time, Tom answered calmly. Lin Yi didn't push any further after he confirmed this matter. He had to find a way to lobby with the prince now. Your Highness Hao Lin, I don't understand. The Arbiter Republic could never stand against us if Atlantis were willing to fight with us. In a hypothetical worst-case scenario, if Aslan were to be defeated, Arbiter would never leave Atlantis alone. The Mayan Empire had expressed their intentions as well, Lin Yi said. Diplomacy might look like it was all talk, but it could change the situation if they could find the right people. The times are changing, diplomatic strategies must change as well. Of course, we know you have difficulties as well, but what will Atlantis eventually become once it changes? Hao Lin listened quietly to Lin Yi's persuasion. He was a good listener. In fact, he knew intuitively that Atlantis' current strategy wasn't the most suitable. They had received great benefits through the established system. Aslan's contribution had to be acknowledged. That was why Atlantis was still exporting equipment to Aslan. Would the ruler of the new order still accept Atlantis' neutrality, like Lin Yi had said? Humans' ambition knew no boundaries. Hao Lin grinned. General Lin, you know that I have no say in politics. I'm not of age yet. My sister's marriage is the current headache we have. Lin Yi sighed in his heart again. Your Highness, aside from our relationship, the Aslan Empire and Atlantis have been very friendly. To be honest, I'm here representing Her Majesty the Queen. Atlantis helped us since the start of the world, but the situation is indeed more critical now. Her Majesty the Queen wants to know Atlantis' position. Lin Yi opened his hand. It wouldn't do to continue dragging this on. Hao Lin knew this was the case. Lin Yi had chosen him because Prince Hao Lin definitely knew the core decision. He was also more affectionate amongst the rest. That was Aina's advice. Perhaps Hao Lin would think about this relationship. They didn't expect this affection to dominate Atlantis' decision, but it could probably give Aslan a real signal. Hao Lin sighed. Atlantis had made their decision. One wrong step would spell the end for them. After so many years, Atlantis and Aslan did indeed possess something like a friendship. Aslan considered Atlantis its only equal in the Milky Way alliance, which was the same for Atlantis. General Lin Yi, we hope that the Aslan Empire will win this war. We will support you with certain resources, but we cannot send troops on behalf of Aslan. Hao Lin gave a politically correct answer. Lin Yi's heart turned cold. Her Majesty was right. The Atlanteans had made their decision. They were brilliant and would never remain neutral in this troubled world. Who did they decide to support if not Aslan? Arbiter? That wasn't likely. They wouldn't continue supporting Aslan in terms of resources and technology if they sided with them. Manalasuo? Hail Cloud Alliance? Who? Thousands of questions went through Lin Yi's mind. The Atlanteans had chosen the ruler of the next era, just like they had for Aslan all those years back.